Dawn breaks over the rolling hills of Kintyre, Scotland. Mist drifting through the meadows as waves from McCartney's Bay whisper in the distance. What does life look like for a Beatle when the stadium lights fade, and the only applause left comes from the wind and the sea? Today, we'll step into High Park Farm, a sanctuary where Paul McCartney found peace, wrote music, and raised a family in the heart of the Scottish countryside. But before the farm and the fame, let's rewind to his early life and the journey that built a legend. Paul McCartney was born in 1942 in Liverpool, England, a city still recovering from the scars of war. His mother, Mary, was a nurse and the family's emotional anchor. His father, Jim, played trumpet and piano in a jazz band. When Mary died of cancer when Paul was just 14, it left a wound that would echo through his music forever. Those early years, a blend of working-class grit, family warmth, and loss, shaped a songwriter who could turn heartbreak into harmony. Even When I'm 64, written when he was just a teenager, carried the wistful optimism that would define his career. At 15, everything changed. He met a sharp-tongued, charismatic boy named John Lennon. Soon, Paul joined John's skiffle group, the Quarrymen, and the partnership that would redefine music history was born. Together with George Harrison and Ringo Starr, they became the Beatles, four lads from Liverpool who went on to conquer the world. From 1960 to 1970, Paul lived a decade that rewrote pop culture itself. Songs like Love Me Do, Yesterday, Hey Jude, and Let It Be didn't just top charts, they became global anthems. While John often embodied the band's rebellious edge, Paul brought the melodic heart, the optimism, the craftsmanship. By the end of the 60s, they were no longer just a band. They were the voice of a generation. But fame came with fractures. In 1970, amid lawsuits and creative exhaustion, the Beatles split. For Paul, it was more than the end of a band. It was a personal heartbreak. He retreated to Scotland, to the windswept peace of High Park Farm, where he poured his solitude into his first solo album, McCartney. The simplicity of those recordings, birdsong, raw vocals, Linda's harmonies, felt like a rebirth. Not long after, he and Linda formed Wings, a band that blended rock, romance, and the free spirit of the 1970s. They toured the world, raising their children on the road and living out Paul's dream of family and music entwined. By the 1980s and beyond, he had already become a living legend. But instead of slowing down, he expanded his musical range, composing the Liverpool Oratorio, releasing pop gems like Flaming Pie, and experimenting with new sounds in the McCartney 2 and McCartney 3 trilogies. Even into his 80s, Paul never stopped creating. In 2022, he earned a Primetime Emmy Award for the Beatles, Get Back, completing an extraordinary run of Grammy, Oscar, and Emmy honors, a rare creative grand slam. Yet, for all the lights, tours, and awards, his soul always drifted back to one place, the rolling hills of Scotland. Because while London was for business and New York for fame, High Park Farm was where Paul McCartney truly lived. High Park Farm, the Beatles' countryside sanctuary. Tucked away on the windswept Kintyre Peninsula in western Scotland, High Park Farm isn't your typical rock star mansion. No velvet ropes, no marble fountains, no paparazzi-friendly gates. Just rolling hills, sea mist, and silence. Paul McCartney bought the 183-acre estate on the 17th of June, 1966 for about £35,000, following his advisor's suggestion to invest in property as a tax shelter. At the time, it wasn't a dream getaway. It was just another smart financial move. But what began as an investment soon became a refuge. The farm sits just outside Campbelltown, overlooking the silver waters of McCartney's Bay, where the wind hums like a slow Beatles ballad. The property itself is humble. A 3-bedroom stone farmhouse, small outbuildings, and acres of meadows, woods, and misty valleys. From the kitchen window, Paul could see sheep grazing on the slopes and the Atlantic stretching endlessly westward. It wasn't glamorous, and that was the point. When the Beatles dissolved in 1970, the world watched Paul McCartney unravel under the weight of fame, lawsuits, and public criticism. So he ran, not to the Hamptons or to Malibu, but to this quiet corner of Scotland. Along with Linda McCartney, he traded studio lights for the crackle of a wood stove and the rhythm of rain on the tin roof. Together they raised sheep and cattle, fixed broken fences, baked bread, and built something that fame could never buy: normalcy. McCartney once said, "It was the first place I ever felt I could really breathe." Here, he learned to slow down, to live season by season instead of chart by chart. It was on these same hills that he began writing some of his most intimate post-Beatles songs, including Maybe I'm Amazed, inspired by Linda's quiet strength. Over the decades, McCartney renovated the farmhouse but never spoiled its spirit. Today, it still carries that blend of rustic authenticity and warmth, the kind of place where he can host grandchildren, strum an acoustic guitar by the fire, and watch the fog roll over the glens. Even now, Hyde Park remains Paul's emotional anchor. It's where he retreated after Linda's death in 1998, where he found comfort in solitude before returning to music. And while this Scottish haven holds his heart, thousands of miles away in California lies another chapter of his life. A mansion where rock royalty meets Hollywood elegance. Beverly Hills Mansion, the Hollywood Hideaway. In 2001, Paul McCartney once again made global headlines, not for a new song or a tour, but for buying one of Beverly Hills' most exclusive homes. For $4 million, he purchased a residence once owned by Courtney Love, a name that instantly turned this transaction into tabloid gold. But while the gossip pages focused on the celebrity link, true architecture enthusiasts knew the real treasure here wasn't the former owner. It was the legacy of Paul Revere Williams, the trailblazing architect behind this 1941 masterpiece. From the street, it's almost invisible. The dense greenery and manicured landscaping keep it private, giving the former Beatle a sense of peace in a city that rarely sleeps. The main residence and guest house together span over 15,000 square feet, yet the property still feels intimate, a rare blend of scale and serenity. Step inside, and the home tells a story of timeless Hollywood luxury. The main house features 2 master suites, 3 additional bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and 3 powder rooms, a layout that feels both expansive and deliberate. 2 staff quarters ensure the household runs seamlessly, while the interior design mixes British refinement with California ease. Polished wood floors, arched doorways, and soft, neutral tones that bounce off the California sun. But what really sets the home apart are its hidden indulgences, the kind of amenities you'd expect from rock royalty. A 2-lane bowling alley and private cinema add a nostalgic flair, while the fully stocked bar brings back the spirit of McCartney's 1970s post-tour soirees. Whether it's quiet family nights or gatherings with fellow legends, the home adapts, elegant when it needs to be, and effortlessly fun when the music starts. Outdoors, the property unfolds like a private resort. A crystal blue pool and spa glimmer beneath the California sun, framed by a koi pond that whispers calm into the courtyard air. For leisure and sport, McCartney has access to a tennis court, a multi-purpose sports field, and even a private putting green. The outdoor kitchen completes the scene, perfect for al fresco dinners under the palm trees. Or perhaps, as neighbors have speculated, the occasional impromptu sing-along by the grill. What's striking is how much this home mirrors McCartney himself. Part British elegance, part Californian soul. It's not flashy like some celebrity palaces in Beverly Hills, but rather quietly magnificent, a retreat for reflection, family, and creativity. And if Hyde Park Farm in Scotland represents Paul's love for simplicity, This Los Angeles mansion reveals his appreciation for craftsmanship, privacy, and timeless design. It's the other side of the same story, the grounded musician who also knows how to live beautifully. Now, let's take a look at how that harmony extends beyond architecture, into the machines that move him. Car collection. There are few cars more British than an Aston Martin DB5, and few people more fitting to drive one than Sir Paul McCartney. The same shade made famous by James Bond. This DB5 captures the sleek sophistication of the 1960s, when the Beatles were rewriting pop culture. McCartney bought the car new during the height of Beatlemania, customizing it with a state-of-the-art record player and a sound system that could rival Abbey Road Studios. Elegant, fast, and unmistakably British, just like the man behind the wheel. If the DB5 was McCartney's youth, the DB6 marked his evolution. Sleeker lines, a longer wheelbase, and that signature camtail made it more stable, just like the artist himself, entering the era of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This was the car of creativity and confidence, a ride that symbolized his transition from pop idol to cultural icon. It's what you drive when you're rewriting pop culture. By his 60th birthday, McCartney had already conquered the world. Twice. So when he gifted himself a Corvette, it wasn't about status. It was about speed and fun. A bright red American muscle car parked in a rock legend's driveway? That's a love letter to the freedom of the open road. It's also a reminder that beneath the polished British charm, there's still a man who loves to let loose. Proof that even a Beatle can go American muscle sometimes. In recent years, McCartney's choice of car has reflected his philosophy of peace, sustainability, and quiet living. The Lexus LS 600HL, a hybrid luxury sedan, is whisper-silent and environmentally friendly, aligning perfectly with his vegetarian lifestyle and advocacy for green living. For someone who's spent a lifetime surrounded by sound, this car offers the serenity he's earned. The quiet ride of a man who's had enough noise in his life. His garage, much like his music, is a blend of eras and emotions, from the elegance of British engineering to the thrill of American horsepower, and when the road ends, he simply takes to the skies. Private jet. When you're one of the most recognized musicians on Earth, travel isn't just about getting from point A to point B, it's about keeping your peace in the clouds. While there's no confirmed proof that Paul McCartney currently owns a private jet, several reports have linked him to the Gulfstream 4, a favorite among world leaders, business moguls, and rock royalty alike. Introduced in 1985, the Gulfstream 4 became the gold standard of private aviation, a $40 million masterpiece of speed, comfort, and understated luxury. Capable of flying more than 4,000 nautical miles non-stop, it easily connects London, New York, and Los Angeles, the three corners of McCartney's creative world. Inside, the cabin feels less like an aircraft and more like a flying studio lounge. The seats recline fully, arranged for intimate conversations or late-night songwriting sessions. Advanced soundproofing keeps the engines quiet, allowing McCartney, the man who wrote Let It Be, to actually let it be at 40,000 feet. Subtle lighting, fine wood accents, and high-speed connectivity transform this jet into a space that's both efficient and deeply personal. Whether it's a quick hop from London to New York for a concert or a discreet family getaway to Scotland, the sky remains McCartney's calmest stage. Yacht. Among Paul McCartney's many sanctuaries, few reflect his spirit quite like his yacht, the Muse, once called Lady Linda, a heartfelt tribute to his late wife. Now valued at around $5 million, this 155-foot masterpiece merges luxury, nostalgia, and artistry, much like McCartney himself. Designed for both family comfort and quiet creativity, the Muse carries a refined, minimalist aesthetic. Soft creams, warm woods, and open spaces that feel more like a sea-bound retreat than a traditional yacht. With 5 elegant cabins accommodating up to 10 guests, it's not built for spectacle, but for serenity. Here, the Beatles' world slows to the rhythm of the waves. The main salon flows seamlessly into a dining room and bar, all flooded with natural light. The kitchen, sleek yet practical, often doubles as a family gathering spot during longer voyages. But perhaps the yacht's most extraordinary feature lies beneath its calm design. A private recording studio McCartney had installed in the early 1990s. It's rumored that fragments of songs and collaborations were born here, drifting into life somewhere between Monaco and the Mediterranean breeze. Outside, the muse invites connection with nature. A spacious sun deck with a hot tub and alfresco dining area offers panoramic ocean views, the kind that remind even legends to pause and breathe. There's another dining area on the main deck, ideal for sunrise breakfasts or quiet evening reflections. This isn't just a symbol of success. It's a vessel of memories, melodies, and family stories that stretch across decades. But behind the calm seas and serene decks lies a fortune built from timeless music, sharp business instincts, and a legacy few artists in history can match. Income and net worth. Paul McCartney's fortune, estimated at $1.2 billion, makes him not only one of the richest musicians alive, but one of the most enduring success stories in entertainment history. His financial empire, like his music, has evolved with time, from Beatles-era royalties to billion-dollar publishing catalogs and sold-out world tours that rival any modern superstar. The foundation of McCartney's wealth lies in songwriting. Alongside John Lennon, he co-wrote more than 250 Beatles songs, generating royalties of an estimated $50 to $100 million per year. Yesterday alone, covered more than 2,200 times, remains one of the most profitable songs in music history. Through MPL Communications, founded in 1971, McCartney has built one of the largest privately owned music publishing portfolios in the world, worth more than $600 million. The catalog includes classics by Buddy Holly, Carl Perkins, and other legends, ensuring that, even when he's not performing, the checks keep coming. McCartney's tours are among the most lucrative in the world. He earns roughly $4 million per show, and his Got Back Tour, 2025, is projected to add another $50 to $100 million to his earnings. His concerts are more than nostalgia. They're cultural events that bridge generations, pulling in everyone from baby boomers to Gen Z fans raised on streaming Beatles playlists. Merchandise and record sales across 6 decades have generated another $100 to $150 million. But McCartney's sharp business instincts extend far beyond vinyl and t-shirts. His licensing deals with Cirque du Soleil's Love Show, Apple Corps, and Disney's Beatles documentary, Get Back, have collectively brought in around $75 million. These partnerships don't just pay, they reinforce the Beatles' cultural immortality for new audiences. Even in the digital age, McCartney remains relevant, with streaming, publishing rights, and a steady social media presence. His photography books, art exhibitions, and online content generate an additional $250,000 plus per month, adding a modern twist to an old-school empire. Behind the fame and fortune, we'll step into Paul's personal world, family, love, and a philosophy that still keeps him grounded after 6 decades of stardom. Personal life. He met Linda Eastman, a photographer and animal rights activist, at a Georgie Fame concert in 1967. They married 2 years later, in 1969, just as the Beatles were dissolving, and their partnership became one of the most celebrated unions in music history. Linda was more than a muse. She was Paul's collaborator, bandmate in Wings, and lifelong companion. Together they raised 4 children, Heather, Mary, Stella, and James, and built a life grounded in family, creativity, and shared values. When Linda passed away from breast cancer in 1998, McCartney described it as the darkest moment of my life. He later said her death made him realize that love and kindness were the true legacies worth leaving behind. In 2002, McCartney married Heather Mills, a model and anti-landmine activist. Their relationship was highly publicized, from charity appearances to a turbulent divorce finalized in 2008, which reportedly cost McCartney over $40 million. They share one daughter, Beatrice Millie McCartney, born in 2003. Love, however, found its way back. In 2011, Paul married Nancy Shevell, a business executive and longtime friend from New York's Hampton social circle. Their low-key wedding at Marylebone Town Hall, the same venue where he married Linda decades earlier, symbolized a full-circle moment of peace and renewal. McCartney's life has also included its share of rebellion. He was famously introduced to marijuana by Bob Dylan in 1964, a habit that stayed with him for years. Despite arrests in Sweden, Los Angeles, Japan, and the Caribbean, he remained an outspoken advocate for cannabis reform. His U.S. visa was even denied until 1973 because of his stance. McCartney has since mellowed, admitting he gave up smoking weed at the request of his grandchildren. "I don't want to set a bad example." He also experimented briefly with LSD and cocaine during the Beatles' psychedelic years, though he later distanced himself from heavy drug use, describing it as a creative detour that didn't need repeating. Through it all, fame, loss, and reinvention, McCartney's personal journey mirrors his music. Deeply human, filled with melody, emotion, and endurance. And as the man who once sang "All You Need Is Love" now watches the Scottish sunset from High Park Farm, one truth remains: he never stopped believing in it. If you enjoyed this journey through music history and timeless places, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps us keep exploring the homes, lives, and legacies of the icons who shaped our world. Stay tuned. The next story might surprise you.